Something bipartisan got done before the holidays, at least, Dan. This was a unanimous vote. Everybody on both sides of the aisle agreeing to this and wishing for it to happen. How do companies prove that this is something that they can abide by, or is it effectively now a sanction on companies who do business in Xinjiang?
Well, the way that it works is it basically is set up what they're calling a rebuttable presumption, which is that all goods coming from Xinjiang, from the Xinjiang region, are made with forced labor. So anything coming out of that region, any company that's importing something from that region would effectively have their business or their imports banned if they're trying to bring them into the U.S. What they can do at that point is to try to prove by submitting some paperwork and some evidence to the Customs and Border Protection Agency saying, proving the provenance of the goods, where they're coming from, how they've been produced, and if they can prove through that mechanism that they're not being made with forced labor, then they would be allowed to bring the shipments in. There's already sort of a mechanism in place to clamp down on forced labor that requires companies to prove that the goods that they're bringing in aren't made with forced labor. But this kind of takes it a step further by basically issuing a blanket sanction in effect, or a blanket proclamation that all goods coming from that region are made with forced labor. So it does kind of put the burden of proof on the companies in a different way than the status quo before this bill was signed into law.
Intel is a really interesting case study, right? Because they've kind of now walked back, trying to make it clear that what they're doing is only to ensure regulatory compliance. It's not an ethical or a moral stance at all. It's really hard for these companies, but it also doesn't really look good to either side, right? When there's that sort of perceived backtracking.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Just to sort of reiterate quickly the Intel situation. Basically, they had made a statement. The company made a statement that they were going to start pulling back from the Xinjiang region because of the forced labor issue. They got some criticism from the Chinese government for that. They then apologized, and they're sort of in a unique situation in the sense that they're trying to expand in the U.S., they're trying to expand in Europe, and of course they're trying to expand in China, as many companies are. And so there, you saw the statement where they sort of apologized or took back some of their rhetoric around Xinjiang. And, that largely sort of, in the business world, obviously landed with some impact and U.S. politics as well. But just before we started talking a little bit ago, I saw a statement from a Republican congressman in the House who was saying, this is you have to make a choice, basically saying to Intel, you can choose to expand your operations in the U.S. or you can choose to expand them in China. And so I think that there's going to be a little bit more of that as we head into the new year, as there are some initiatives still on the table in Congress to boost domestic semiconductor production that's here domestically in the U.S. And obviously the Olympics kind of bringing some of this more to the forefront, where you're going to see some more politicians, I think, coming out and sort of saying companies are going to have to choose. Now, whether that's bipartisan or whether that's just Republicans or just Democrats, we don't know. But obviously, there's been an increase in bipartisan interest in taking on China with these issues recently, which this bill sort of illustrates.